All right. Well, here we go. Another episode here. Tremors here on AftershocksPodcast.com, AftershocksTV.com as well. And what's going on, Chris? Doing this again? How you
Just
doing?
good, man. How are you, man?
Doing real good, man. Just looking forward to this one. We got another great lineup, man. Seems like they're getting better and better pretty much every time we're doing one of these.
It does, dude. Isn't it cool to have something to do and it's like cool guests and it looks cool and
mhm.
everything about it is kind of fun. That was when you and I talked and decided we wanted to do just the podcast part of this, not even the TV. Both of us had that same thing, that we wanted to kind of stretch out of our own skin a little bit of classic metal, classic rock, and do something fun and new and different. And now here we are doing it. And we got our little TV show and everything.
Yeah, I know, right?
Fucking great, man.
I know, man. I'm really loving it, man. So we'll go ahead and I guess we'll give the listeners here just a brief introduction. First up tonight, we've got coming to us from the Mississippi Delta, Magnolia Bayou, a nice, really awesome young blues rock band, up and coming band that really is starting to, make some waves out there. And we're looking forward to talking to them. They got a new album coming out. They've only been around for, I think, a couple of years too.
Yeah.
3 years, I think, right?
Yeah, I read that. I was like, they've only been around for like 3 years, but they've toured with like some real legit people already.
Yeah.
It's like I was reading some of the press. I didn't know anything about them. Probably you didn't either. But, reading up on them, I was like, wow, 3 years old and they've toured with Slash. It's like, whoa, how does that happen?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, they're really taking off, and it's interesting too. I can't wait to talk to them too, because you don't really see too many bands coming out of a place like Mississippi.
Yeah.
Unless of course it's blues, like straight up blues, band. But you just don't see often, any kind of rock bands that are. I mean, there's probably a couple on my hand that I can count. There's not very many, so it's great to see. I love just personally seeing bands coming from different geographical regions that you normally don't know. It's always usually LA and New York and the same old. So it's great to see, some of those bands getting some push.
And somehow I have a feeling, I mean, from the 33 seconds that we spoke to them during the warm up here, I have a feeling they're going to be way more like regular people guys than the typical LA, New York guys that we always seem to run into, because they're just regular guys that just happen to rock. So
yeah, well, that's how it starts. And like we've been talking about a bunch of times now, with all these younger bands getting into a lot of this blues, it's like going back to basics now, which I think is important, is learning sort of the roots of rock, which came from the blues. And of course, now you've got a lot of these younger bands. It's not like, I think what happened a lot of times, maybe like in the 90s or, the 2000s with these kids growing up, you're growing up listening to Metallica, you're growing up listening to Megadeth, and all this stuff is on the radio automatically. So you never really had that earlier, serving of some of the traditional rock and blues stuff that kind of helps, kind of grow you into the heavier stuff. So it's really just cool to see. It's real refreshing. And yeah, I mean, the more the merrier we can push these bands. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too, man. And that's kind of become it's hard to say it's the trademark of a show that's like, 5 episodes deep, but that's what we've been trying to lead the show off with each week, is something new that we're fairly certain that most of the people that will watch don't know, and I would say we definitely hit the mark with In Vertigo when we did that. Probably hit the mark with Sons of Silver, and now Magnolia Bayou, another band that we're going to introduce people to, and they'll like it or they won't. And, if they're like us, they'll like it. That's been another thing that's been fun for us. And tell me you expected this or you didn't expect this. Did you expect to get so much music that we both kind of like?
I haven't, to be honest with you, especially new music. No, like newer bands. I mean, yes, of course, new music from bands that have been around forever. Sure, of course, we're expecting to hear good stuff from them. But in terms of brand new bands with guys in their young 20s or like, late 20s, whatever age they are. No, I haven't. And that's what's great, right? Because like we've said, I mean, I don't even know too many kids who are into rock anymore. It's like, when I talk, I mean, even a lot of musicians, you hear about them talking about their kids. It's like, well, yeah, they're into hip hop, or they're like talking about, oh, my son's got this band he's in. It's this really cool, mix of EDM with maybe some rock, but it's always got different stuff in it. It's never just either rock or metal. So I love it when it's just straight up, roots based stuff, which is what Magnolia Bayou is.
Yeah, and there's just an abundance of this stuff out there right now. And another one that's not coming to Tremors live, but that we are going to feature on the podcast and on the video podcast is that band South of Eden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're another great band that, very much out of the same vein. There's just a lot of these bands that are out there right now and are having success. It's clearly the wave that the PR or the record companies are going for, that are trying to be in the rock world right now. A lot of people are calling it retro. I don't like to think of it as retro as much as just they've stripped out most of the bullshit. But it definitely is the focus of where people are going right now, musically, and I couldn't be happier. Give me 60s and 70s influenced rock sounding music all day long. I'm perfect. Although I did introduce you to Primitive Man before we started, and that's definitely not 60s and 70s.
Oh no, but that's great. That's what's great about it, is the contrast. We've got all the different contrasting sounds and extreme sounds, more subtle sounding. Rock and metal bands. It's all good, as long as it's coming out, it's new. I think that's what we need to appreciate more than anything.
Exactly.
Is, like I said, these kids now are picking up their instruments and learn how to play them. That's huge. You know what I mean, to me. So
it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, Magnolia Bayou is coming, and then we'll get to some names you might know. Of course, we're gonna have the mighty Phil Demmel, formerly of Machine Head, back with Vio-Lence, which is as a Bay Area bash guy, as a Bay Area thrash and bash guy, it's my favorite kind of music that there ever was created. Phil Demmel is like demo god to me. I am very excited to have him on to talk some Vio-Lence, and I was a huge fan of Machine Head. Up until
was right. The keyword was there.
I hate to say it, but the combination of Rob Flynn's SJW bullshit and Catharsis really pushed me away from the band.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because I mean he puts on a great live show.
Oh yeah,
fantastic. But yeah, I'm with you. Which and it could be one of the reasons why those guys left. Who knows? You know what I mean?
We can find out. But
we could, yeah.
but I mean, just some of their albums, untouchables to me. Locust and Blackening, and the More Things Change, and obviously the debut. I mean, these are top 20 metal albums of all time in my world. So I'm a big fan of Machine Head. But there is it just me, or does Machine Head remind you somewhat of like the updated Megadeth, where you like most of the stuff, but then every now and again there's the Burning Red or Supercharge or Catharsis.
Or now Catharsis. Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like, what happened?
Yeah, but but the good thing for Phil is, I mean, I guess he's back with Vio-Lence. They've got a couple of new members in that band, and they're they just put out that video for that song that we'll talk about when Phil comes on. And but it's great to just see Sean back. I mean, he looks and sounds great, from in the video. I mean, and they did a couple of reunion shows here about a year and a half ago that were just off the hook. So I mean, it's great to see him. Then of course after that, we've also got another big name guest to wrap it up, Mike Spreitzer, the guitarist from Devildriver.
Right.
We've also got a great new album coming out. I mean, that album is blowing my mind. That is phenomenal.
That thing is, what's it called? Dancing with Demons.
Dealing with Demons, Volume
1. And that thing is an ass kicker. You know, dude, it's funny. I've said this before about Devildriver, man. They, as extreme metal goes, they are like my 1A. My two favorite extreme metal bands are Cataclysm and Devildriver. And I've seen them both live numerous times, and they both kill live. And, you know, having Mike, who's basically been in the band since the beginning. It's weird. I had to look because, you know, I was reading the press and I was like, it wasn't saying that him and Dez were the original members. And I was like, I swear to God, I saw him play on like the debut tour. And I think I did. It just was, you know, because they had somebody that recorded the album and then they left and then he filled in. And then, you know, and he's been there ever since. He and Dez have been, you know, the two mainstays ever since. So,
well, yeah, they weren't really the same. I mean, to me, Devildriver really got moving once that second album came out. Fury of Our Maker's Head. I mean, that album still is probably my favorite by them. I love that record. But yeah, before that, that first album was a little bit more. It still had more of that Cold Chamber-esque new metal thing, sort of hanging around it. And then once that second record came out, it really just took off, and it was really just a groove metal behemoth. You know, they became just a machine after that. Yeah,
and they haven't let me down since.
No,
you know,
not at all.
It's been fantastic.
Fantastic.
So,
yeah,
you know,
I agree.
Very excited tonight. 3 quality guests with a lot of quality music that I suggest everybody go and check out. Not just the names you know, but the names you don't know as well, because you're going to like Magnolia Bayou as well. I promise.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Magnolia Bayou, we got the guys right here coming in. Well, let's introduce them. We got guitarist Dylan Palmero and vocalist guitarist Andrew Fulton from blues rock upstarts Magnolia Bayou. What's up, guys? Thanks for coming on tonight with us.
How's it going, guys? How are y'all?
Nice. Pretty good, man. What's the drink of choice there today? Is that just water, or you got something spiked in there?
Just water.
Oh, okay.
Samuel Adams, Boston.
Oh, hell yeah. All right.
Yeah, nice.
That's the original craft beer right there. Sam Adams.
That's right.
Yeah.
May go grab one here in a sec.
Nice. All right. Awesome, man. All right. Well, man, you guys, I mean, it looks like the pandemic really hasn't affected you guys at all. I mean, let's quickly run down your guys' activity as of late, man. You're getting ready to unleash the band's sophomore release, Strange Places, that comes out September 24th. Really good record, man. We were listening to that, me and Chris. We think it's great. I love the song Thieves that you guys released. It's one of the singles. Really dig that. You're currently set to do a live stream performance, too, I see, of the new album as well on October 8th, which is really cool. And you've also done a bunch of acoustic stuff via your social media. So you've got that lead foot. It's squarely on the gas pedal, but you guys have not let up and let this pandemic get in the way, which is great. I love to see that with bands, you know, because this is such a challenging time. But so how are you guys able through all this to stay positive, you know, as you are right now and remain focused, you know, especially as a, you know, fairly new band? You guys have been around for 3 years or so. So how do you guys really stay focused and positive with all this nonsense and negativity going on?
Well, we were very fortunate to actually have an album in the works during this whole process, man. And we've had a lot of roadblocks along the way. It's almost 2 years in the making now, really, if you go all the way back to the writing process. And so at the beginning of the year, we were a little frustrated with all the roadblocks. And then, of course, the pandemic started and we were a little bit worried. But it turned out to be a really good thing, man. Even with no live shows or anything going on, you know, having an album and having a steady stream of material like singles and things like that to put out has really just allowed us to keep going, man. And it's, you know, every time we put out a release, people get excited, and then we get excited. And I think we're very fortunate to actually be sitting on material to give to people during this whole process, man. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Or else I don't really know what we would have been doing.
We would have probably written a little more than we did now. It just probably wouldn't have been happy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that always makes for good music too, though, right? You know,
exactly. No right or wrong way to do it. You know, I did want to clarify really quick too. Our live stream is on the 1st.
It's the 1st now. Okay.
No big deal. I just wanted to clarify that for all the viewers out there and stuff like that.
Okay, so everyone out there, the 1st. Don't listen to me. Well, cool, man. Well, it's not, you know, the other thing too with you guys, man, it's not every day we see rock bands making a big splash nationwide that come from Mississippi. You know, I mean, obviously plenty of famous, musicians individually have come from there over the last, decades. You can even go back, obviously, to the blues roots. I mean, everybody was from there. Robert Johnson, Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker, and go on and on. But you don't see necessarily many bands that have been able to break out and make it big domestically here in the States. The only ones I could think of, like on top of my head, are like Three Doors Down. I know it from there, and Bishop Gunn.
Right.
And of course, you have, I think most of the guys in Blind Melon were from Mississippi as well.
That's right.
Shannon Hoon was, correct?
Shannon Hoon's from Louisiana.
Okay. But, everybody else was, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, how does a band like you guys, how do you go about changing that trend? I mean, does it mean playing just more outside those southern region circuits, like in New Orleans and Atlanta, like going outside of those in order to expand your reach? I mean, is that something you guys are going to really look to do once live music comes back to the fold here?
Definitely, man. I mean, we play anywhere and everywhere we can. When we started out 5 years ago, we primarily played the circuit on the Gulf Coast, and we're from Gulfport, but really the coast is one big city because you got Ocean Springs, you got Biloxi, you got Gulfport, you got Long Beach, you got Bay St. Louis. So the whole strip, man, it's just miles and miles, and it's like one big city. So we would play like 4 nights a week on the bar circuit down here. Mm-hmm. And then about 3 years in, after recording our debut album, we started traveling all through Mississippi, eventually going in Louisiana, Alabama. We play in Tennessee a lot. And we've even traveled as far as Idaho, man. We go out to Idaho.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that place is a hidden gem in the United States, man. They love music. They love Southern rock. They really dig the whole Mississippi thing. Most people from Idaho I don't even think that most of them have never met people from Mississippi.
Right. A band full of us, just pull in, and it's like, kind of like, hey, y'all, what's up?
Yeah.
Out there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Anywhere we can, man. We've traveled up the East Coast. We've played in New Hampshire. Anywhere we can, man. We try to expand our reach and really push the whole Mississippi thing, because you're right. You don't see a lot of rock bands come out of Mississippi, and the last big band to really make it was Three Doors Down. Yep. They're actually from Pascagoula, which is a neighboring city. It's about 40 minutes from here, and it's been a long time, man. So we just travel everywhere we can, and we really push this, what we call Mississippi rock and roll, which is a very blues-based and infused rock music. And we just try to push that message everywhere we go,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Well, guys, it's a good time for you guys. I mean, the pandemic blows ass, but other than the pandemic, it's a good time musically for you, because there's a lot of bands that are similar in style, although I'm not comparing you directly to them because I don't think you exactly match, but bands, obviously Dirty Honey or Fleet or Joyous Wolf, or
the top three that I throw out when you're asked, like, who are your peers that are killing it, kind of a thing, and those are the three, man.
Right. Cool. Well, with that style of music and with it hitting, have you found that it's easier to gain an audience because there are more people than there have been in the last 5-10 years that are listening for that style of music? Or do you really find that you have to kind of say, yeah, well, that's them, but this is us and this is what we do?
Man, I think the conditions are perfect right now.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of young people, kids in high school, are starting to listen to classic rock again. My youngest sister, who's 7 years younger than me, she didn't, she wasn't exposed to Led Zeppelin and stuff growing up. And now she's digging through these Led Zeppelin records. And, this is my argument. Everyone that gives, shit to Greta Van Fleet, whether you love them or like them, our thing is kids are listening to Led Zeppelin again. And when they're listening to Led Zeppelin, then they're listening to us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think the conditions, the water's perfect right now, man. People are starting to jump in. The temperature's just right. And especially a lot of young people, they're digging through these old blues rock records. And I think it's, Dirty Honey's coming on the radio. And that I was on my way to work 2 days ago, and I decided to turn the radio on, and Dirty Honey came on, and I was like, this wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. Yeah.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And one of the interesting things is that Dirty Honey is a true independent band like you guys are. Yeah. There's not Atlantic Records or Elektra or whoever behind them on any level. They're a true independent. Mm-hmm. Does that help you guys? Because it's actual stone cold proof that that the music will play well on the radio without a program director being paid off, or have you seen that helps you guys get your music out there more?
So far so good, man. Like you said, it's kind of paving the way and, busting the doors down for bands like us, up and coming guys. Like, people are more apt to hearing independent rockers because of guys like Dirty Honey, who are, able to do it themselves, so it's humbling for sure,
Sure, definitely. Yeah. Now I was reading through your press, so I'll take that with a grain of salt that it is the press release and not, talking to you guys, but it talked a lot about how you guys are all kind of from very different musical backgrounds. A, is that true? And B, if that is true, how did you string it together to find the sound that ended up defining Magnolia Bayou?
So actually back in high school, the bass player Josh and I got together, and the drummer we had at the time in jazz band later became the first drummer of Magnolia Bayou. Anyway, we would get together afternoons after jazz band and just literally jam some, old blues standards and stuff like that, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, stuff like that. And we were kind of funky, kind of bluesy, we just played whatever we dug. Mm-hmm. And Drew and I were getting together around the time and hanging out, geeking out over pedals and guitars and everything under the sun.
I was in another band at the time.
And he was in another band at the time. And I said, hey, man, actually, my dad had this idea. He was like, hey, man, that kid's from the Delta, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, man, that boy's got to be singing some blues, or whatever. And so we started out, playing a couple Buddy Guy tunes, and everything just kind of fell into place from there. But yeah, I'm a big classic rock. Used to be a metal guy like crazy. Love funk, rock. Cedric loves heavy metal. Josh is into funk and country rock. And we kind of hit the grunge area as well. So, but it's all over, man.
I think it's 5 years ago when we started, like you said, we started out as a traditional blues band. We kind of had decided we're going to bring blues back, traditional, like 12-bar, nasty, grungy Delta blues. And we did that for a while, played a lot of blues covers, wrote a few blues tunes, almost kind of forced it. And I think at some point, but we've always been into so many different types of music. And I think at some point it was like, instead of trying to, we already had a very strong foundation because we had such a big repertoire of blues covers that we did. Right. That's how we built our chops, like in those Mississippi Delta juke joints. Yeah. And I think at some point it was like, let's stop trying to write blues. Let's just jam and let's just play whatever the hell comes out of us. Yep. And because we have such a diverse background, it just like the music that we started writing, it just became like, I can't really, people started saying like, what is this? What is this style of music? And it's just like, it falls under this Southern rock umbrella, I guess you could say, but it's really just a big melting pot of everything with a very strong blues foundation,
Absolutely. It's like a big old bowl of gumbo. You just start dumping stuff. Dumping stuff in, carefully dumping, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Totally.
Sprinkle it in.
Oh, awesome. So when you guys do your stuff online, your social media streams or your live streams or whatever, I mean, how do you go about approaching that? I mean, obviously these days do you try to trick yourself into thinking you've got a crowd around you, you've got an audience to listen to you so that you can sort of get as much of a live feel as you can? I mean, how challenging is it right now for you guys just to kind of, I guess perform for your audience, but at the same time, you're just kind of sitting by yourselves in a room? Yeah. I mean, I know it's got to be difficult.
It's been a little weird. At first, it was a lot more weird than it was, or than it became, I guess. But Drew, we got in the habit of like putting 2 records on his piano and had them propped up to where people could see them, and then we would have a record of the day, so to speak, and then it ended up being 2 records, and it was kind of like a walk-on song, and then it's like you know, you don't go on immediately. You don't turn on the phone and like see us immediately. It's like, you know, it kind of builds the hype like a live show, but it's
Right.
you know, it's not a live show. It's the next best thing, you know. And you know, it's really fun. I mean, you can close your eyes and pretend like you're just jamming with your buddies, and then you've got an internet full of people, you know, waiting to see it later on, you know, kind of a thing. So it's kind of a blessing, you know, too, for in that regard. Like you may get a hold of some people that you probably wouldn't, you know, reach, as opposed to not doing these live streams and stuff like that. You know, people are sharing all the time, and it's just a different avenue that we start to garner fans in that regard. So
Sure.
Yeah, and I'd like to add too that when we do our live streams, we try to make it as interactive as possible,
Yes.
which definitely helps. And the first time we did it, I mean, I won't lie, if I'm being completely honest, the first time we did it, I hated it. I was like, there's no way I can do this for the next 6 months. But as time went on, you know, Dylan and I spent a lot of time in a room together working acoustically, which was something that we were not very used to. You know, you can kind of get blanketed in that wall of sound when you play with the band.
Sure.
So it forced us to look at ourselves as players. And we spent a lot of time rehearsing together. And then the more we did the live streams, we kind of made it fun. We would drink a little bit. We'd get on there. We all have our phones on us. In between each song, we're reading through the comments and we're calling people out, and we're telling jokes, and we just try to make it as interactive as possible. And that makes up for the fact that there's not an actual audience in the room. You know, you actually feel like, and then you do it every Monday night, it starts to build in popularity, and then you have this core group of people that's just kind of like you're hanging out with this group of people every Monday night, and it just makes it a lot more fun when it's interactive like that.
Sure.
It's pretty much becoming the new normal, you know?
Yeah, and not only do the live stream thing, so, you know, you kind of get to know personalities outside of a live show, because sometimes, you know, you may get a chance to like shake this guy's hand and say, you know, hey man, thanks so much for coming, you know, and you might get a story in or two or something like that. But here it's like a community where people are talking, and, you know, you can go back and read stuff or you know, go back and comment or interact in any way, shape, or form. And it's just kind of like a add-on to what we do, you know, out there live, you know, kind of a thing. So
yeah, awesome.
Pretty cool, you know.
No, totally, yeah. Sure, no, definitely. You know, me and Chrissy, we were talking before you guys came on, and we were like really impressed with a lot of you know, great musicians and artists you guys have played with so far. And yet the fact that you guys have only been together for 3 years is even more impressive. So what has been your, so far with all the live shows you guys have played, what's the one that's really stuck out to you, one that you guys can sit together every night and just, you know, cheers and just talk about, like, damn, we play? Because we, you know, I think we were ready when you played with Slash, or, I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys you played with, you know. I mean, who's been the number one? I mean, you played with Bishop Gunn, those guys are great. Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Bishop Gunn, who's actually unfortunately not together anymore, their drummer produced the new album.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
We were very close to those guys. They're like older brothers for us, and we spent a great deal of time on the road with them. We've played with a lot of big names, Blackstone Cherry, Whiskey Myers. I mean, a lot of great names. But if I had to pinpoint a show that just really stuck out, it would be back in October, we played Tipitina's with Bishop Gunn. It was one of the last shows we played with him. And Tipitina's is like a legendary club in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's one of those places that's been there forever. And it's kind of like, I guess, what's the place in L.A.? Like the Whiskey or something. Whiskey, it's like the big club in Louisiana on the southern side. Everyone's played. And man, we played till packed out. And I think the show was about sold out, and it was just slammed. And it was the height of the Bishop Gunn Magnolia shows, because we did a lot of stuff together, and we kind of, it was like I don't want to say it was a competition, but we pushed each other every night. It was like, let's perform our asses off so that they have to work harder. And we were always pushing each other like that. And after 2 years, it just kind of seemed like we had built ourselves. It was a Powerball thing. You could almost cut through the energy in the room with a knife, I guess you could say. It was,
that was monumental for sure. Yeah. The guys that we opened up for, I guess if that was a double-sided question, my favorite opening slot was opening up for Wet Willie in Mobile, Alabama. That was, or Fairhope, Alabama, which is just outside of Mobile. But that was a blessing, man. That was so much fun.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Nice.
Well, guys, listening to the new album versus the previous release, the one thing that jumped out at me was that it really seems on the new one like you guys like kind of honed in and kind of trimmed the fat. It seemed like the first album had a lot of 6 and 5, 6, 7 minute songs.
Yeah.
The new one I don't think has any. I think they're all like right in that 3-4 minute. Was that a purpose move, or did you feel that was something you guys needed to do or is it just how it came out?
It wasn't intentional. I think we just kind of grew as songwriters, and just like you said, we unintentionally learned to trim the fat, I guess you could say. I mean, our producer had a lot to do with it. Our producer was real savvy about, going, get rid of this. That's not necessary. That's too long. I mean, there was some jam sections like in The Robber that was just way too long. And he was like, just cut it down. If you want to do that live, that's one thing. You can play an 8-minute song live, because we're kind of like a jam band by nature.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, I guess with maturing and learning more about songwriting, you just unintentionally trim the fat. And then when your producer gets a hold of it too, he'll go, don't worry about that. Get rid of that. Do it live. Don't do it on the record. So,
right.
Yeah, it really forces us to think in terms of definitely maturing and kind of honing in on solos being X amount instead of whatever feels good. Because we did that a lot on the first record. We just kind of jammed, and it was fun. I mean, that was our first record. It's
sure
you learn a lot, and then there's more to grow between 1 and 2. That's why sophomore albums can sometimes be better for bands and stuff like that. You just kind of hone in and trim the fat and learn what works, learn what might work, and then you can throw a couple surprises in there and see how it goes, and just learn as you go.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, guys, the new release is called Strange Place. It is. When is it out? When is it out exactly?
September 24th.
All right. So what is that? Like 2 weeks?
Yep. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Get your
Pre-order?
now. MagnoliaBayou.com.
There we go. Very cool. Yep, it's right on.
You can pre-order the record at MagnoliaBayou.com.
All right. All right, guys. Well, guys, thanks so much for checking in with us, man. We will definitely direct people toward Magnolia Bayou, the new album, Strange Place, and good luck with it, man. I hope it does well for you both.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for having us. Appreciate you
guys. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
You too.
All right. There we go.
Fantastic.
So look at that. Magnolia Bayou checking in.
Checking in. Yep. Real good band out of Mississippi. Everyone should definitely check them out. And looks like we're going to get ready here to bring on our second guest for tonight.
Yes.
And let's bring him on in. We've got guitarist Mike Spreitzer from Groove Metal Mavens Devildriver, who are getting ready to release the band's 9th studio album. It's volume 1 of the double album titled Dealing with Demons, out October 2nd through Napalm Records. What's going on, Mike? Thanks for coming on with us tonight. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Not bad, man. Are you here in California? How's the apocalyptic scene out there looking with all those fires going on down there?
It looks very apocalyptic. It's
right.
Very yellow, brown, and there's ash everywhere. But I'm one of the lucky people. Luckily, my house is not in any danger because I'm in an area that's not near any hills or shrubs or anything that could burn. So
gotcha, man.
My biggest worry is earthquakes and tidal waves.
Yeah. We got none of them right now, so that's good. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, you guys are getting ready to release, the first of 2 volumes for the new double album, Dealing with Demons. And man, what a release it is, man. It's phenomenal. Me and Chris were just, talking about it before the show. It's one of my favorite from the band, probably since one of the earlier albums. In terms of, it's the way the record is, it's very heavy. Not so much, obviously the music's heavy, but in terms of its lyrical sentiments, I mean, it's really, the album title, I think, is really a great representation of, what the listeners can expect to hear. It really matches the overall mood of the record, musically also, there's some noticeable changes I noticed too. I mean, in terms of the tempo, still got that vintage Devildriver sound, but definitely more of a mid-tempo twist to it on some of the songs. So did you guys write the music, purposely? Was it written that way to sort of fit the overall semblance of the album, knowing that it was going to be sort of very personal and deep lyrically? So therefore, slowing things down a bit, it allows it for, like a more of a sullen and eerie aura to sort of represent itself in the songs?
I can't really comment a whole lot on the lyrical content because, that's a question for Des.
Sure.
I get that question a lot, but the way things are done, I'm never lately. Back in the day, I used to be around when Des was doing vocals because we'd all go out to outside of El Paso, Texas, to this place called Sonic Ranch and record the whole album there. And I would be around for, everyone would be around for everything. But we kind of do it spread out now. We do a lot of the demoing at my studio, and then we went into Steve Evans' studio and finished everything up there. And then Steve goes to Dez's house to record the vocals. Des bought himself a vocal booth, and he just does it there. But regarding the music, it's funny that you mentioned things seeming a little bit more mid-tempo. And before Neil and I started writing for this record, we were on the tour bus, and that was actually the very first thing we discussed. And it was, we're going to slow things down a little bit, and just because it's a slower tempo doesn't necessarily mean this, the song's any less brutal or anything like that. But I actually kind of found, on slower tempos, and there is more fast tempo stuff on it, but in slower tempos, you can kind of squeeze more stuff in there. And I've never gone into the mindset of doing that. I usually, toward the end of a record or toward the end, when I'm like, okay, I'm going to write 2 or 3 more songs, and I'll go back and I'll look at, what key most of the songs are at, and I'll especially look at all the tempos that, that we've done. And, if everything's, hovering around 170 or 180, I'll go back and I'll write something in 120 or 150 or something like that, just to make sure that we have a diverse selection of songs for people to listen to.
Right. Cool. Well, you just mentioned Steve Evans, who I know he produced your guys' last release, the country covers album, Outlaws Till the End. But this is now the band's first studio release of new songs without Mark Lewis, who worked with you guys for a pretty lengthy period of time there. I think he produced the band's previous 3 new full lengths. So tell us a bit about your experiences working with Steve, who's such a world-renowned producer in the metal world, and what did he bring to the table on Dealing with Demons that made it really such the great record that it is?
He has a different approach than Mark Lewis does, and both are great. It was when we decided to go with Steve over Mark. I mean, it was not an easy decision because Mark, if there was a 6th member of Devildriver, it would be Mark. Because he's been with us and done so much work for us over the years, and I still talk to him a lot. We're really, really tight. But Steve is located about 30 minutes from my house. He's really close, and one of the big things, especially for Neil, he has produced a lot of Neil's favorite bands. So Neil was really excited to work with Steve, and I didn't really know a whole lot about him at first, but we became friends really close, or really, really fast. But he has, one of the main things I noticed as a guitar player is with Mark and almost every record we've done in the past, we've either used, for the most part, it's one person playing the rhythms on a song, and it's the same guitar tone on the left as it is on the right side. And Steve has, and 1 or 2 microphones set up on the cab. In this case, with Steve, we literally brought in probably 10 different amplifiers, 2 cabinets with 6 mics on each cab. We wouldn't use every mic on each one, but he just has more of a way of doing this thing called analog summing, where he blends all the mics into a summing box, and then you kind of just commit to it into Pro Tools. And he wanted Neil to play on one side and have me play all the rhythms on the other. So all the songs on Dealing with Demons, what you're hearing, all the rhythms are both me and Neil playing together. And Devildriver's never done that before. And it ended up working out really, really well. And the other thing that he insisted on was that we do pre-production as a band. And not so much with Dez. I mean, he was there in and out from time to time, but it was just me, Neil, Austin, and Steve for 2 straight weeks in a rehearsal space out in Chino, California, just cutting the fat from these songs, doing them in different tunings, speeding them up, slowing them down, and just trying new things before we just went into the studio and, started recording the final product.
Sure. Cool. Now, do you find that you need an outside person like Steve? I mean, you're an engineer. You could produce a record, obviously. Does having that extra person give you a little more freedom to just concentrate on the music?
Yeah, people have asked me in the past if I would ever produce a Devildriver record, and my answer has always been no. Okay. Because I like that outside influence, because as a writer, you're too close to the music because you see it differently than the listener does. And even a producer, they're going to see things, they're going to have suggestions that none of us would probably think of. And, that rings true with every producer that we've ever worked with. And I think that's important in the long run. And Steve he's been doing this for so long. And that's another thing I love about Steve is he's been doing this for so long that he started in the days where he was recording the tape. And so you kind of got this guy that's old school and new school, and he's just this hybrid mixed into one. And I just love it, and I've learned so much from working with Steve that, it's working with Steve is priceless. I honestly don't think that Devildriver will ever work with anyone other than Steve ever again.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Very cool. Now, Mike, talk a little bit about the vast number of just ideas that you guys had for this. There's obviously 2 volumes there's a second volume coming, and there's this one that has a full collection of songs. What was it this time that not only obviously bands always have ideas and some of them don't make a lot of records. What was it this time where you felt like the material was strong enough that you couldn't really cut any of it and you needed to have a second volume to it?
We went in knowing that we were going to do a double record. It wasn't that we did have leftover material. We did write, quite a bit more than what made one of the 2 records, but it's we went in knowing that we were going to do 20 songs, and we had more than that. But it's this, it's kind of a vote at the end. Everyone's got all the songs, and Steve had some influence on which songs we were going to do, which ones we weren't. Sometimes like when we were in Chino doing pre-production, we'd be playing them, and it's just like, yeah, let's not do this one. Everyone's digging this one a little bit more. So it's just, and we get along so well, the band. There's never any arguments anymore. And, when suggestions are made, no one gets bitter. I think we're all older, wiser, more mature. Right. And it's a much easier process now than it was a long time ago to narrow it down to what we're going to do.
Sure. So then how did these songs make volume 1 versus the songs that made volume 2? Was it just the way it sequenced up, or did you feel like there was some sort of a loose theme musically to the song?
No, I think they all could have gone on one record. It's kind of the same way I'd look at Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Like any of those songs I think would fit on either record.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think they could have cut the fat from those 2 records and put them all on one record.
Right.
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some fillers in there, even though they're both great records. But Neil came up with I think he was the first one that came up with a track listing. And he just sent it out. And I think Dez and the record label might have made a couple changes on it, because there's actually 9 songs on volume 1, 8 on volume 2, and I believe there's probably there's 3 leftover songs which I believe are going to come out as an EP after volume 2. So we've got plenty of stuff to release. But Neil made the track list. I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with this. Pass it on to Des, see what he thinks. And that was pretty much it. You know, it wasn't for me, the most important things are the first 4 tracks and how it ends, which probably isn't the best way of thinking about things these days, because a lot of people don't listen to records. You know, they're listening to EPs or just picking out songs they want to listen to. And I kind of wonder sometimes if people even make it through a whole record these days, because everyone's attention span's so much shorter than what it used to be.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the other thing too is like I do put the songs into iTunes and listen to it from start to finish.
Okay.
And if I don't have time, if I'm and I'm in a hurry, I'll at least listen to see how the songs transition to one another, because sometimes I won't like the way it feels, and you know, I'll mix things up. But when Neil sent me the track list and I did that, and I was like, yeah, everything flows nicely. I'm totally cool with this. And it's just like, you know, done and done.
Sure.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. Well, also the new record, Mike, it also marks the second now full length that you're doing with Austin, Neil, and Diego, who all came on board for Trust No One in 2016. How challenging was that? Going back to, I mean, how challenging was it working with that many new additions at once during the recording process of Trust No One? And what have the guys really brought to the table that might have been lacking or missing with the older lineup since they've joined the band?
Lacking? Nothing. Des brought Neil and Austin over to my house to audition for the band, and Austin was already kind of a done deal because Mark Lewis suggested him. He had just quit Chimera. He also lives about 30 minutes away from me, super close, and we just heard nothing but good things about him. And I really, really trust Mark's opinion. And Mark wasn't like, oh, you know, you should check out Austin. He was like, this is your guy. Don't look any further. Just hire him. We're like, okay, done, hired. We didn't even try him out. And when I first met Austin, it was just like one of those situations where we were just friends instantly. And when Neil came in, I made him play the song Dead to Rights, the opening track off Beast, because it's one of the harder songs. And like, if he could play that song, then he could play any song that we throw at him. And I didn't expect him to learn the solo too, but he did, and he just played the whole thing from start to finish perfectly. And I was like, yeah. And Des really, really wanted Neil in the band. They had been friends for like maybe 2 years. I was a little skeptical because Neil used to play with David Cook from American Idol. That was the last band he was in.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, I don't know how the metal community is going to react to snagging David Cook's, you know, or a guy from American Idol's guitar player.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, looking back, that was a pretty stupid concern of mine, but it was a concern. And because you know, guitar players are a dime a dozen, but you know, I wanted to find someone that was in the LA area, and honestly, no one came to mind that I wanted to be in the band. Not a single person. You know, because it's not only about playing guitar, it's about getting along with them and vibing with them and all that stuff. But so Des basically shoved us into a room and said, start writing a record. And I had already written most of Trust No One at that point, but I wanted to bring some other, you know, ingredients into the record.
Right.
And it was just like a match made in heaven, man. You know, like Diego doesn't write with us. He's more of just a touring guy. But me, Neil, and Austin, I mean, we just get along and we have so much fun writing. I've never had more fun writing with people in my whole life. It's easy, it's fun. They're both extremely talented, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And it's like whoever has the weakness, someone else can compensate for it. And it's just perfect. And then when we brought Steve into the mix, it just made things even better.
Awesome. Oh, fantastic, man. Well, Devildriver, you know, you guys were one of the biggest driving forces during that whole, you know, the new wave of American heavy metal movement during the mid to late 2000s which saw bands like yourselves and a slew of others just kind of really dominate the metal world globally during that time period. And then some months back, me and Chris, we actually did a podcast with a few of the guys from Chimera, and they talked about what a great experience what a great experience that was, and how most of the bands really bonded so well during that time. If you don't mind, just talk a bit about what that experience was like for you being part of that movement in terms of the connection that the bands and musicians all made with each other. I mean, do you feel that many of the newer and up and coming bands today, do they have that similar sort of ethos as that movement did when you guys were all coming up, or do you find that's maybe a bit more competitive and separate these days?
I don't think it's changed much. I mean, the metal community, I think, is much different than a lot of other genres. I mean, for the most part, we're a bunch of nerds that grew up without having a lot of friends, and so we learned how to play an instrument, So
Sure.
most people in the metal industry, I mean, even like the guys in Slipknot and Metallica, and almost everyone is very humble, and I think everyone's just very grateful to be doing what we're doing. But looking back on the days when like Sounds of the Underground 2005, there was All That Remains, Chimera, Clutch, a whole bunch of bands. And actually, I used to wake up every single day, and Chimera used to get Coronas on their rider. And for some reason, we had like Bud Light or something like that. And I just would rather have Corona. So every day, Matt from Chimera would come over to my bus and we'd exchange.
Nice.
Nice.
Here's your Bud Light. Give me my Corona. Almost every single day. But yeah, I mean, you get really close with the other bands really fast because you're out there, most of us are drinking every day, and that just breaks down the walls and you just become friends really quickly. And the other thing I tell people too is you become friends with these people because you get them in small spurts. So you might actually, if they were your roommate, and you had to deal with them on that kind of level, you probably wouldn't like a lot of the people. But you get the best parts of people because you're only getting them in small spurts. They're not opening up, and no one's like really showing them true selves. But I kind of like it that way because everyone gets along better. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing is go play music, have fun, go wreck a city, and leave and go to the next one.
Right. Yeah, and you guys, you're talking about doing that with the bands. You guys have kind of done that with the fans as well a lot. I remember one time specifically when I was doing the metal show on WMMS here in Cleveland, and we did the barbecue with you guys where we had like 10 fans, and it was on the side of the Agora, and we had a little grill, and we were like grilling out, and you guys were just hanging out and having fun. And like the thing I remember most was that the fans were scared to death to come up to you guys. I was hanging because I'm a radio guy. So I was like completely comfortable, but all the fans were like standing up against a wall all by themselves. And I remember specifically you going over to them and saying, "The fuck are you guys doing? Grab a beer. Let's go. Let's have a party here." And that's always been kind of how Devildriver has been. It's always been a band that really was not too separate from, I mean, you obviously have to have distance from the fans at some point, but you guys always seem to have that kind of camaraderie. You built a camaraderie based band instead of we're the stars and you're the watchers type of an element,
Yeah, it was fun. I was more like that definitely in my 20s and my early 30s. The older I get, I'm finding I don't like hanging out quite as much as I used to.
Sure.
I still do, but just not every day.
Right.
But I think all of us were just ecstatic to be out on tour. I mean, I started doing it when I was 23 years old, which is pretty young. And it was just, I was over the moon. Still am. Just let's go out, let's have fun, make sure the fans that are paying their good money, make sure they have fun, and more the merrier.
Right, exactly. Now, Mike, the one song on the new release that really jumps out at me, and I'm sure everybody's asking you on this song, is Wishing. And it's the vocal. It's the clean vocal is so out of left field for this band. Was that just something that you guys wanted, or Des wanted to do, or what?
You know what?
How did it come to be?
I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm pretty sure Steve pushed Des in the direction to do that, because I was caught off guard by it too. When I first heard it, like, I wasn't there when they recorded it. Just
Okay.
As they finished the songs, they would send them to me, Neil, and Austin, and so we can just a rough mix of it, so we can hear what Des did. And at one point, I remember Des thinking he should change that verse to something a little bit more brutal. And my immediate reaction was, I texted him like, dude, not only should you not change this, but this should be like the third or fourth song that we release from this record, because, and I took him back to Sail when we released that. That wasn't supposed to, originally, I was the only one that wanted that on the record.
Right.
And everyone's like, it's too mellow, blah, blah. Look, just put it as the very last song on Winter Kills. And I'm like, if Pantera can cover Planet Caravan and put it on the last song on Far Beyond Driven,
sure,
why can't we do it?
Mm-hmm.
And luckily I won that argument and put it on. It's one of our bigger songs,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit bittersweet because it's a cover, but kind of hoping the same thing happens with Wishing, and it won't be so bittersweet because it's an original.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't think the public has heard that yet. I don't think it's been released, has it?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We're not going to share it yet, but I'm just saying that we've heard it, and it really is the proverbial curveball after a bunch of 100-mile-an-hour fastballs,
Yeah, and I think Des, when Devildriver first started, Des really had to get away from the whole Cold Chamber thing.
Sure.
Back not so much anymore. It's almost like new metal is kind of coming back a little bit, but 2004 to like 2010, new metal was like a word you didn't want to mention almost.
Right.
And we had a lot of fans coming up to us when we would do our signings at festivals and whatnot, saying, you know what, I've never seen you guys before, I've never heard you guys before, because I just didn't want to like you guys. And I think after we released Fear of Our Maker's Hand and Last Kind Words, everyone, the first record was almost like a transition from Cold Chamber to Devildriver. At least that's the way I look at it. And I wasn't on that record, so I have a different way of looking at it than Des does, and the guys that were in the band at the time. But so it was always, I don't want it to sound anything like Cold Chamber. I want it to be brutal. I want it to be brutal, fast, heavy. Des wasn't really into the intro of End of the Line for a while. Obviously, it grew on him, but he was concerned that it's just like, all these clean guitars, and he just wanted to go balls to the walls, heavy all the time. But I think enough time has passed. We were playing Cold Chamber songs on the last tour, and they went over great. And I was a little against that at first, but once I saw the crowd reaction, I put my foot in my mouth. And, I think we've gotten to the point now where everyone's like, let's just do whatever the fuck we want.
Right.
It's like people are gonna hate or love whatever we do anyway, and I don't write music for other people. I write it for myself. And if people like it, they can like it. If they don't like it, they don't have to. Go listen to something else. I don't care. But, if we're just writing music to satisfy the masses, what's the point?
Yeah.
If it's not making me happy, then I don't want to do it. So I think we've finally gotten to that point where it's just like, yeah, we can throw the fans some curveballs and let's see what happens. And I think when we do, like Sail, for instance,
right,
sometimes it goes in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, speaking of, Dez and Cold Chamber, I mean, it looks like for now, at least for the foreseeable future, the band may not ever get back together again. And although that's just the nature of how things work when you're one of your main band members has a profile and resume like he does, it definitely has its speed bumps when a band member decides to start a new project or reunite with a previous one. So, I mean, how challenging is it when you've had to deal with that in the past, knowing that one day the band could be put on hold for something like that to occur, when you've got a guy like Dez in your band who, could potentially have to do a tour with, Cold Chamber?
Well, when he decided to do the Cold Chamber reunion, I actually welcomed it because I wanted to, for the most part, up until that Cold Chamber tour, when they their reunion, we were on tour 6 to 9 months out of every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I can use a little bit of time at home and, stay home. All my nephews and my niece had pretty much completely missed them growing up for the most part.
Mm.
And, it was just nice to stay home and stay grounded and just take a break from the road, just do things that I wanted to do, produce, mix, work with other bands, go surfing more often and, maybe, take some trips here and there. During that time, I spent a lot of time in Australia. I went to El Salvador a couple times and, just got to do things that I never really got to do because I was so busy with Devildriver. And I also used that time to build my studio.
Right.
I just moved into a house and, I've been wanting my own studio my whole life. And I kind of had a little shitty one for a long time, but it was like, good. Let's go on tour. Like I can use the time off. I know some of the other guys weren't very happy about that decision, but luckily I was.
Right. Sure. Well, Mike, let's get to something important here instead of talking about Cold Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Carcass. I heard you on the Toomey podcast talking about Carcass.
Oh, I love Carcass.
And I could not have been happier as a Carcass freak. So talk a little bit. What do you, if you found somebody that did not know of Carcass, what do you hand them and what song off of that do you tell them to listen to?
Oh God, anything off Heartwork. I know there's a lot of people that like Necroticism better, but I'm a Heartwork fan. That is, like I said on the other podcast, I mean, that record and I would say The Hinders by Doth are my two favorite death metal records of all time.
Sure. What'd you think of the last one that they did, the comeback?
I thought it was good, but it's kind of like Metallica releasing a new record. It's like Hardwired to Self-Destruct is a really, really solid record, but it's just not ever going to beat, Ride the Lightning through the Black Album.
Right.
Yeah.
It's never going to do it. There's a time and a place, and it's like I think when you first discover a band, I don't know, Heartwork has some big shoes to fill. It'd be really hard to top that record. I mean, Jesus Christ, that record is so amazing. And I think I remember I was a kid. When was it released? Like 94 or something like that?
Yeah,
93, I think.
Yeah, 93, 94, somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, and let's see. Let's say it was released in 93. I was 12 years old. And it was on Headbangers Ball, the song Heartwork.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Christmas was right around the corner, and my mom, all I wanted was CDs for Christmas. So I'd give her a list of some CDs, and she and my sister went to Tower Records back in the day. And for some reason, I didn't write down Carcass. I wrote down Caress. Completely different. So, my mom, and she told me the story after she gave it to me for Christmas, but they got one of the guys that worked at Tower Records and, were trying to figure out, looking for this Heartwork CD by Caress. And I guess he finally looked it up and it's like, No, the band is Carcass, and then my mom and sister are just like, well, that makes a lot more sense, judging by the music. And yeah, man, I listen to that record until my ears bleed. I mean, I still put it on from time to time.
Same. This Mortal Coil does not go a month without getting played at least once in my phone, man. Such good stuff.
What is track number 9? That's another one of my favorites.
The expletive song. God damn it. Doctrine.
Yes.
Doctrinal expletives. Right?
Yeah. Doctrinal expletives. I can't even pronounce it.
Expletives.
There you go. Expletives. Thank you. I just recently put a Carcass playlist on my phone because their stuff isn't available on Spotify.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Well, you have to ask them. They must think they can still sell CDs or something and don't need the Spotify.
It's usually a record label thing, and I mean their new album is up on Spotify, but their old catalog isn't. At least it wasn't last time I checked.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, one catalog that is definitely there is Devildriver, and Mike, when is the new release out for the public? Dealing with Demons, Part 1.
Our October 2nd.
Okay.
It was going to be October 9th, but we pushed it up a week.
Very good. And where should people go to keep up with you guys and buy it and all that good stuff?
Oh, there are pre-orders available, and you can find a link for those on the Devildriver site or any of our Instagram pages. I got it up on my Instagram page right now.
Okay.
And it'll be available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, probably Amazon as well. And pretty much anywhere people stream music these days, you can find it. It's coming out on vinyl. Actually, I think we're even releasing it on a cassette. I think there's some bundles that have cassettes in them because some people have been wanting cassettes again. Which
I don't get.
Why?
Why?
No, they sound horrible.
Horrible. Yeah, horrible.
The last thing I want to listen to is our record on a cassette. I mean, I don't even have a cassette player, so I wouldn't be able to play it anyway. But
right.
I kind of do want a copy of it, though.
Right. See, there you go.
That's why. That's why.
That's why, because fans will buy it. You know,
it'll never get played. It'll just be on like a
collector's
mantle
item
somewhere in my house.
Dude, I promise you, if you pressed 50 on 8 tracks, someone would buy them.
Oh yeah,
probably.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, dude, thanks so much for coming on, man. We definitely appreciate it. And everybody, make sure you go to devildriver.com and pick up the new release, Dealing with Demons.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Take care, buddy.
All right, see ya.
See ya. All right, Mike Spreitzer from Devildriver, and that new record really is no joke, man. It's whew. You know, and I like that they slowed down a little bit. I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad. I mean, of course, you know, they've always been known as obviously the name itself, Devildriver, is very fitting for their kind of music. But you know, and like you said, they even had that little clean part there on the vocal.
Yeah,
on,
I wish we could actually play a piece of it.
I know.
But you know, obviously, we're not allowed.
Unfortunately.
But when you were listening to the album, did it not just pull you out and be like, "Whoa, what is this?"
Dude, it was, and like I said, I was trying to figure out what it was that was sort of, what was I hearing that was different that made it that, and I think it was because of the more mid-tempo approach to a lot of those songs. It just allowed more things to come in, and it's something you just, like I said, we've never really heard by them. So it's new, it's refreshing, it's freaking phenomenal. I mean, it really is a great freaking record.
It is. I know on Wishing, the thing that surprised me the most was Dez's clean voice. I don't know that we've ever heard that.
Well, I mean,
Cold Chamber.
Yeah, in Cold Chamber, he would more just sort of like talk, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't, but he wouldn't have any sort of clean
this is like
harmonies or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like a crooning sound.
I know. It's definitely different, man. But, you know, and that's what's, you know, Devildriver to me, man, they're like, you know, probably my favorite band from that, you know, that era, you know. And I think the reason is because, I mean, for one, obviously, you know, the guitar playing is phenomenal, but, you know, Dez's voice really is so, it stands out. I think, you know, a lot of those, I think, bands from that time period, it's not to knock them, it's just that it was very one track minded, like in terms of, you know, nothing really stood out. None of the vocals stood out. But Des, even going back to Cold Chamber, he always had that unique growl, you know, and voice where you just was like, this guy's voice is phenomenal. And I'm so glad that when he did leave Cold Chamber, he got heavier. He didn't get softer. You know, he got more intense because I don't know. You remember that whole? I remember I forgot to ask Mike too about that. There was that whole thing back in the early 2000s. I think it was on their second record. We were just really starting to get big, and they got put on. I think it might have been the Summer Slaughter tour, and it was one of the like sort of real like, you know, death metal and melodic death metal tours. And I remember Cataclysm got booted off in order for Devildriver to get on. And I remember it was a huge deal. I remember Maurizio going out there and blasting, you know. But like Mike was just saying, you know, I think they've surpassed having to prove that they're not Cold Chamber now for quite a long time. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, and you're right. I remember that really well, that whole Cataclysm thing, because I was a fan. I was a fan of Cold Chamber, to be honest. So was I, yeah. And I even liked Darker Days. I love that. You know, I thought that was pretty damn solid. And When the Devil Gets Its Due, the Leftovers album, I like that. I mean, I was definitely a Cold Chamber guy. And but when they came out with Devildriver, that self-title, I was like, yeah, this is, you know, because it's weird because most people think I'm such classic metal guy. You know, I'm Doc and Rat guy, but I'm not.
You're proving that on Aftershocks and Tremors. So
I'm definitely not. You know, what I listen to in my real life is the more heavy, the better. I love heavy music. And I remember when Devildriver came out, I was like, all right, this is picking up where like Machine Head, Pantera, Fear Factory stopped. You know, it was different, and it wasn't quite death metal. You know, it wasn't all the way like a Cataclysm. It was like just short of death metal. And I just loved it. I played the fuck out of that record when it first came out, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I've never stopped playing Devildriver music, man.
No, I think you made I think you made a great point though. Like you said, they picked up where a lot of those bands like Fear Factories and Panteras, like with that groove, they still kept that groove metal. You know, where I think, I mean, a lot of those, you know, bands, I mean, like Chimera had a lot of groove metal too, but there was like, they had parts of group metal. You know what I mean? Like certain bands might have had little parts, where Devildriver was pure, just balls to the wall. It almost had like still like a thrash sound, you know, to it. So, yeah.
But, you know, what's interesting with Chimera is, and I know I'm in the minority in this, so, you know, save your emails telling me that I'm a stupid fuck, because I already won't agree. But I don't think Chimera found their groove until later on in their career. I know everybody loves Pass Out of Existence. Everybody loves that. And I do too. Sure. But to me, it wasn't until like the self-titled or the Infection where they really sucked me in. But yeah, you know, Chimera, you know, all those bands at that time, that mid to late 90s era, you know, the music got heavier, it got cooler, you know. We just ended up finding that heavier sound, and Devildriver was certainly one of those bands, you know, that led that, as was this band, Machine Head, and a guy that used to be in Machine Head now has reclaimed his throne in Vio-Lence. Is the one and only Mr. Phil Demmel. Phil, how are you, man?
Good man. Good, man. I don't know if we are reclaiming the throne or anything. I think we were like the court jesters back in the day. Whatever the thing that they used to fling around, we've reclaimed that.
Very good, man. Well, Phil, it's good to have you on the show, man. Both Matt and I are huge fans of everything that you do. You know, right. And to the point, we're both huge Machine Head guys, and seen you play, I don't know, dozens of times. And, you know, and now, but it seems like right now you're like the most busy guy in the pandemic era of rock. Like every time I turn around, there's another band and your name's in it, whether it's BPMD or it's the, the thing that you did with Jericho or or obviously the violent stuff, talk about just staying busy at a time where everybody else is laying around on the couch, man.
It's ever since I left Machine Head, it's been this kind of nonstop, just fun-filled roller coaster ride, and I don't know what's happening next or what the style. I don't even know what I'm in line for, but but it's going to be cool, and going from Machine Head right into the Slayer thing into an extremely busy NAMM for me, and doing all these jams with all these killer artists, and jumping into getting asked to do the BPMD record, and being asked to be the only guitar player in this band doing these crazy cover tunes. And man, I filled in for Nonpoint for a couple of shows, and I tried to think back at everything that I've been doing, and these collab jams that I've been doing are super fun.
Metal Allegiance.
Yeah, the Metal Allegiance. We did a tour, and writing this, Vio-Lence getting back together, which was the last thing I expected, coming home and from the Slayer thing and enjoying the holidays, and then have Sean contact me in January and say, hey, what do you think about doing some shows? And I didn't know what he was talking about, man. I like, because last time I saw him, it looked like he was on his deathbed. We held this charity golf tournament for him, and he was just gaunt and a distended belly, and he looked like my grandfather, and his I went up to visit him. I was going up to see Shinedown up in Sacramento, and I had his address, so I was dropping in on him totally unannounced to surprise him. And I saw him out front, like watering. He was on the porch, maybe waiting for his dog to come in or something like that. And I was shocked, man. I literally stopped and was taken aback by how sickly he looked, and this was Sean fucking Killian, man, and I've seen him at his best. I've seen him at his worst, but I've seen him at his best, and he was just this piss and vinegar, full of life, shit talking, full of energy dude. And to see him in this state was super sad. And I could tell that, I haven't really talked about this much, so you guys are really getting a scoop on this. That he was taken aback that I was just like, oh shit, nobody's really seen me like this, and I've been sick for a bit. And I let him explain what was happening, and he explained what had been going on and what his fight was. And so it was good to connect at that level. But then to flash forward to January 2000, was it 19? 19.
Last year.
He's wanting to do these shows. I'm all violent shows. Are you kidding me? You just, maybe doing a cover of a Sabbath tune with you sitting down, but not, I don't know if you've ever seen the band before, but it takes a lot just to get on stage, let alone sing those songs. And I thought it was a huge undertaking on his part. And then once he said he was on board, I had to take him at his word. And then we had to recruit everybody else and make sure that they were going to be up to the task.
Right.
Yeah.
So this Vio-Lence thing has been super cool. Doing some reunion shows, getting to travel the world with some dudes that the last incantation of the band. We have since moved on to Bobby Gustafson playing guitar for us now. Christian Oldie Warbur's playing bass for us now. So as the group has gained traction and we got a deal with Metal Blade and we're putting the big boy pants back on, it's not just jamming for our friends in our backyard. Although we did sell 2,000 tickets in about, in a few hours.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Super cool. I'd never done that with any of my bands in the Bay Area, selling that many tickets in that little a time. And so it was the love that this area has for this band and now it's growing. We're seeing it global, with the internet. If the internet was alive back in 1988.
Only if I know.
You know what the big difference was then to now, Phil? I mean, yeah, the internet might have given you some opportunity to get the word out, but I think the big difference was just the abundance of bands at that time. When you think about, you guys and Forbidden and obviously Testament. And, you know, I mean, I used to go to the Stone or the Omni pretty much every weekend.
Oh, wow. So you're local.
No, I'm in Cleveland now, but I was back then. And I used to go to those clubs without even seeing who was playing. It didn't matter because you just knew that there was going to be somebody that you could relate to musically, you know, and I saw Vio-Lence play. I forget which one of those rooms back in like 91, 2, somewhere in there, somewhere in the old days. But you know, that was what was the big, if there was a reason Vio-Lence didn't break out in my head, that would be the reason, is that there was just so many bands, you know, people started picking their poisons versus just embracing them all. Did you see it that way?
Kinda. I felt that, you know, us as a live band, especially back in the day at our most cockiest, we would, on a level playing field, we would open for anybody. And I think there was a lot of bands in the Bay Area who didn't want to go on after us too. So in the days before a lot of production and stuff, that we would, we weren't scared. We weren't scared to play with anybody. So we did a few tours. I think that the fact that we were, you know, so brazen and cocky and knew it all, that when we fired our manager, who was friends with everybody in the industry, Debbie Abono, sweetheart to all, you know, that was the death knell. That was just like, nobody wanted to work with us. And and understandably so. So we had a nice deck in front of us. You know, we got some super 1-album deals with Mechanic MCA and Megaforce Atlantic. And I feel that we were too big for our own britches to understand our place at that point. And to be here, 32 years later, and able to have fun and enjoy the music and have it be about that now is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I think we're all grasping onto that and enjoying making this. I mean, the songs, and I don't want to get into it's the heaviest, it's crushing. I would just say this: we are all so excited about what we're doing, and are so proud of the tunes that are happening now, and what we're doing as a group. So it's really, really exciting.
Awesome. Well, Phil, yeah, I am here in the Bay Area. I've been here for about 10 years now. One of the coolest things I love it about around here in terms of the metal scene, and me and Chris have discussed this, is that, you know, you always hear about metal being like a, you know, quote unquote community, but really it depends on, I think, the geographical location you're at. Because I mean, I grew up in New York, I lived in LA, and it's not like it is here. I mean, the musicianship, the musicians, the fans, everybody here is just, it really is a community. You know, I mean, the musicians are very inclusive. They're approachable. I mean, they interact with you, obviously, like you're doing with us. And they're just also very appreciative of the fans, that, you know, that they still enjoy their music. And, of course, the historic relevance to the scene. Obviously, you know, you've toured the globe extensively. You've been, you know, in and around many of the metal circles here in the States as well. In your opinion, not really to compare it with any other location, but what is it that makes it so special around here with, you know, the musicians in the scene that really separates, I think, the Bay Area from other places when it comes to metal? Because I mean, everyone's just so kind of down to earth here and just kind of really connected.
Yeah, I think it all starts in the beginning. I'm wearing the shirt, the Murder on the Front Row, you know, shirt right now, and I just rewatched it yesterday because the first time I saw it at the premiere, I was during a Metal Allegiance tour, and I was raged till 7 a.m. the night before. It was just so shot at the screening. So I rewatched it, and I think it all starts at the top. I think it starts with, you know, Kirk and Gary and Exodus, and bringing Metallica in here with Cliff and having them be part of this too. And I think that the whole Bay Area vibe was more, I think the biggest rock stars in the area weren't in any of the bands. They were the characters of the scene, the Toby Rages, the Airborne Andys, the, you know, all these, you know, people that you hear of, the Double Death Patrol guys coming in. And there was a point in, you know, they set the bar as far as, hey, be humble or be knocked on your ass type of deal. It's like, you know, everybody's a family here. There are no rock star trips here. There were, as time went on, there were some rivalries, us and Death Angel had beef, us and Forbidden had beef, that we were all on that, they were the first couple of tiers, but they were kind of our big brothers. And, I played in a band with Zet and his first band actually. And I watched him grow from my band On Parole, into Legacy and then into Exodus. And then I saw Chuck come in, who lived in Dublin with me.
Sure.
His brother was in his brother was in Vio-Lence when I joined, and Death Penalty. So there's all this incestuous, vibe going on where you're learning from all these people, and they're, they set the bars as far as musicianship because you couldn't suck because people would rip the mic out of your stage. Or I saw this band called Tyrannicide playing, and one of the locals, Jeff Bovey, jumped on stage and just socked the center of the face. I'm like, wow, fuck. So, they set the bar as far as being cool and being part of that community. And that, like when you were living here, maybe in the later 80s, you could go to the Omni, the Stone, some of the other clubs, the Mab, the Rock on Broadway, 4 or 5 nights a week. There's a metal show going on.
Right.
You didn't care. You didn't really care who was playing because all your friends were going to be there. Mm-hmm. It helped because there was going to be a quality band playing or a friend's band playing or somebody that you wanted to help support. The shows were like $5 and it was you were a scene. You knew who you were going to see there, and you knew who was going to support. And it hasn't happened anywhere else in that sense. It's never going to happen again, especially in these days of technology and instant gratification. I want to hear blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon you're going to just hit your forehead and go, ruin, Lamb of God, go.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, and you're so right, Phil. Back then, like I said, I never cared who was playing. I never went to try and I was in the military at the time. I was stationed at Fort Ord, so I was like an hour and a half away. Right. And I didn't have a paper to know what was going on up there. It was just like, whatever. It's, who cares? You would go up there. And for me, I was 20 years old at the time. All I cared about was I could go in the Omni and I could go upstairs and I could meet somebody. It didn't, I go upstairs and I meet Jim Martin from Faith No More.
Faith No More guys are hanging out.
Yeah, or Zach Wilde would be in there hanging out because he'd be in town or something. Or the Metallica boys would be hanging out, or Exodus, or, you guys. It was always one of those, as just a music dork, it was like, fuck yeah, this is like how it's supposed to be. And it isn't anywhere that I've ever been, man. It's definitely a time that I wish would come back, but probably never will.
I'm saying 95%. Definitely not 5%.
Well, Phil, let's talk about Vio-Lence, man. Let's talk about what's going on in the camp. Last I read, you guys had finished recording a couple of songs for the upcoming EP on Metal Blade. I know you guys obviously released the Dead Kennedys classic, California Über Alles, which is a great job on the video too. I mean, yeah, Sean looks great in there. He sounds great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, he really does, man. And so just let us know what's going on in terms of the EP that's supposed to come out eventually on a Metal Blade.
All right. Well, we, when all this hit, we didn't have anything going on, and Sean had recommended that we do the song, the DK song we're going to do a home show in April, and then it got moved to August, as we all know. And so we were going to perform this song at the show as a, kind of a treat. We wanted to do something different. And so I was thinking, man, we're not going to be doing anything. Let's bring up, Bob and Christian and do a video for this tune. We could do it, and me and the wife run a bar in Dublin here called the Back Lounge, and we could do something, hey, we're bored, let's go down and jam or something,
Right.
And the premise all came to us as it came along, and everybody's, if you've seen the video, it's it's an anti-mask, whatever. It's like, it's not anti. Everybody's wearing a fucking mask,
Right. Yeah.
So it was fun to record the song. It's the first time that, Perry and I had recorded basic tracks together. The first time we recorded with Christian, he came up and recorded us on his Pro Tools rig in our practice, in our jam pad. It's the first time we've heard Sean sing for Vio-Lence since 1994. We did a demo, but it's been 26 years since he recorded for the band. And so it was everybody, we pumped it as this new thing, but we also said it's a cover song. So, it's a cover. And people were just like, fuck. We thought they had this all disenchanted that they didn't get a brand new song. So I love what Sean did on it, and it was great for him to not have this pressure of writing new lyrics and have this. It was a fun thing. It was meant to be fun. I mean, we recorded in our jam room, for God's sakes. And so what we're doing now is a 5-song EP for Metal Blade.
Cool.
We don't know when it's going to be released because this is all insanity right now still.
Sure.
I mean, you're in California, so you look outside today and it was what?
It's crazy.
It was
Mars here. Yeah.
I honestly was, I was expecting to see Ash with a chainsaw, my boomstick, red skies, and
yeah, it's crazy.
I felt like I was just worked like the graveyard shift. If you ever worked graveyard and you just kind of, you're just waking up, but it seems like it's nighttime. And so anyways, I digress. So we're writing these 5 songs. I'm writing the music. Sean's writing the lyrics. This is just kind of the first things that I'm kind of writing post MH. And I want this, I'm being totally selfish, and I just want this to be Eternal Nightmare style. Me writing the music, Sean writing the lyrics, composing with Perry. Perry's in the room. And so these 5 are going to be me and Sean. Probably do a full length after that. It'll be all 5 of us with Bobby and Christian writing too, and all 5 of us hashing it out. But this is something that I just need to purge. I need to make a statement with. And we've got 4 songs now, 3 with lyrics. I think 4 almost complete now.
Okay.
And there's, like I said, it's the most crushing, most brutal riffs ever. I'm not going to do that.
Sure.
I'm just going to say, I've kind of said a couple times where if a riff don't give me a 10-foot boner, man, then it's not going to make it on this. So every bit
there you go.
is, it feels like our first record, because when you do a first record, you've had like 3 years to kind of assemble the songs and go over them. And I feel like we've had a lot of time on these that I'm adding like a harder riff here or adding a little bit here, and the dudes are like, fuck, man, they can be, you got like 10 songs and they
right.
You don't have to cram it all in. So I'm just trying to, some of the riffs I can't play yet because I got to get shit up to speed, or I'm just, I even did that in Machine Head. I'd write riffs that I really couldn't write. And Rob's got such a killer right hand that it's just like, well, here's how I'm hearing it in my head, So I'm playing the riffs on this one. So I got to, I've been going to boot camp, and these past really year and a half, really working on my technique a lot, and, getting my when you play with Slayer for a bit, you got to have your chops.
Yeah.
So I think I took it from learning those songs and just kind of stayed on top of it, and been doing my workouts. So be prepared for some songs you're not going to be able to just pick up and jam. You're going to have to learn them.
Awesome. Well, I think it was kind of a brilliant move in a way to sort of release the cover at first. Like you said, I know a lot of fans were.
Thank you, man. You get it.
Yeah, of course. Well, the thing is because now the fans can, they've gotten a taste of the sound, the tone. They see that Sean's vocal prowess is still at such a high level. So now it's going to gin up even more excitement than it was before. So I think it's a good move. I know you got a lot of scrutiny from a lot of fans going, what's the first song in 25 plus years and it's a cover? You know what I mean? But I think it's a brilliant move, man, to do that. Obviously marketing wise, in terms of just getting, yeah. And in terms of just quickly, like you said, you got Bobby and Christian now that are in the picture. So what brought those guys into the picture, especially now that, Dean was there for so long. He was there, obviously, when the band lifted off in the, mid 80s there. What happened with Dean, and how'd you get Bobby and Christian to come on board?
Well, first, Bobby was approached. Him and Perry have been in contact for 30-something years, ever since Perry left Vio-Lence the first time. And I think maybe 91, 92. No, it was after Rob. So he's maybe 93. Fuck, I don't know. But he and Bobby had been jamming and trying to get something together. And I think that they were going to jam with Billy Milano right out of the gate. Yeah, because Perry kind of rubbed that in our faces a little bit when he was leaving. You know, I'm going to go do some real shit now. And, you know, Billy and I, you know, Vio-Lence was really stagnant towards the end. You know, we were just beating a dead horse, and he had an opportunity to go do something. So, you know, looking back, I get it. But they'd been in touch for a bit. We were, it was time. Us and Ray had just reached the point where it was time. You know, we had some fun doing the reunion stuff with him and get to travel a little bit with him. And it was, we were stepping up, and we had reached the point in our relationship. I don't know how much more I can massage this in the most politically correct way, that it was just time for us to break up.
Okay.
And Bobby was on board. Same with Dean. We had a whole slew of shows this year lined up to do. Dean has always been kind of non-committal throughout every step of the band.
Right. Yeah.
Be it rehearsal or be it whatever, you know, character, awesome personality, looks great on stage. And so we were approaching these shows, and he's got, you know, a really good job at home, raising a kid, single parent, got great benefits, and there was going to be a commitment with him, whether he could make it. And it was looking like he was going to miss more shows than he was going to make, or he didn't know. And it was just like, I'm not sure. And so at that point too, it's just like, you know, Dean didn't want any big farewells or send-offs or anything like that. So we're honoring that. And it was just time to, you know, this all hits, and then all the plans go kaput that we had in line. But I don't even think that I asked the band. I think that I just that Dean wasn't going to make, and I said, you know, hey Christian, you want to, you know, I knew he was a big Vio-Lence fan, and I've been friends with him for a long time. We played together. I was in Torque, and we opened for Fear Factory back in the day, and he had tried out for Machine Head, and I'd been in contact with the dude, you know, super mellow, fits right in with what we're doing. And I'm glad that he fit in, because he was just, I kind of made a unilateral decision.
Right.
I didn't offer him a position. I offered him a show. And I think once the guys met him and saw him play, and it's just ridiculous right hand and player, and super excited to what we are, you know, I've got this weapon on the bass guitar right now, you know, that actually in one of the songs, it's called Flesh from Bone. And it's probably going to be maybe the first one released, but I had this riff in the beginning, and it's just been me and Harry writing, right? So it's all I'm hearing is just, I haven't heard anything with bass or even another guitar at this point. It's just been the one guitar. So I haven't been playing this guitar part, and I recorded it, and I was thinking it, but Bobby vocalized it first. He's all, dude, why don't you have Christian play that part on the bass? You know, it's just like, fuck, I have this whole other element to the band to use now, and for him to be part of, and he did it. And you know, if I had available, I probably would play it for you right now, but I don't. I got goosebumps, like a literal goosebumps.
Nice. Awesome.
Thinking about, you know, the songs, and we have some in first pass guitar. We got some good drum tracks. They're just kind of pre-production stuff. So we got Perry to play the song all the way through, and then I layered some guitar tracks on it, so Sean could sing some vocals on it, and we got some vocals and stuff, and it's fucking, I'm so excited, man. You know, Sean sounds killer. He sounds amazing. He's got this, I mean, you hear it on the cover, but he's got this cool tone to his voice. It's not, you know, he's balancing, you know, us back in the day, we're way more popular than we ever were back in the day. You know, it's just like, and people are just, if you read the comments on, gosh, Sean sounds great. Everything, you know, even some were just like, everything sucks but the vocals, you know, and that was never said about our band.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't care if they say that. We said they love Sean, you know, that's, it's so cool, because that was such a polarizing part of our band, was like, you know, Sean was you loved him or you hated him. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now he is. I think the world is ready for Sean Killian vocals, you know, and especially with how he's doing it now. I'm really excited, probably mostly in that sense, you know, because of Sean. It's fucking awesome.
Nice. Now, Phil, with obviously the change with Machine Head and you being, you know, out of that band, does that make Vio-Lence your sole main project? Or, I mean, because obviously you've done 1,400 projects since you left Machine Head. is Vio-Lence the sole main entity now, or are you still looking for that?
Well, you know, I put the BPMD record out in June, and I mean, obviously we can't do anything to support that. We were going to be supporting that, so it's a project. We're not really a band. We're four bros that are jamming covers, you know.
Right.
So Vio-Lence is the main. It's the priority and the main focus, I would say. But I've done all these collab jams with all these amazing artists, and you know, those take up time, although they're not the priority. You know, I've got 2 contracts with, you know, 2 of the bands right now, and the Vio-Lence is the one that's on deck for what we're doing next.
Right.
But we also want to do shows when we can, and Vio-Lence will be the most active in that sense. BPMD isn't going to do that, but there are other things that I've done. This band Hail that I've jammed with Lomenzo and Chris Adler and Zet, and you know, we had the opportunity to do some stuff. And Allegiance was going to do some things, and you know, I'm just a big single swinging dick right now. I'm ready to. I'm down to bang. Who wants to bang?
Nice, man. Well, Phil, anybody that has followed your career knows that, you know, obviously Machine Head, and I'm not gonna try to even engage into the shit talking Machine Head thing, because you've done that, and we don't need to get into all that.
Well, I don't think I have.
Well, no, not
shit.
Maybe shit talking is the wrong term, but it is what it is. People know why you left. You've made that pretty clear. My question is for you is
my tongue.
Now, you obviously for a lot of years you considered Rob Flynn a very good friend, I would assume, or at least a friend.
Yes.
And now seeing the, you know, the social justice stuff and the need for attention stuff and catharsis stuff and, you know, all the things that people don't like as fans.
Okay.
How do you look at that? You know, not necessarily at him or if your friendship has changed or whatnot, but how do you look at it as it affects you? Because you are forever going to be tied to so many great records. I mean, there's a lot of people think The Blackening is one of the top 5 metal albums ever recorded.
Right.
And so you're always going to be associated with Rob. How do you look at that now? And is it frustrating that you're associated with a side of him that maybe wasn't there for the bulk of what you were doing?
I think that, you know, I'm not one to post about my religious or political or social too much beliefs. I don't want, and that's just my choice. People do. Watching words carefully here. You know, you brought up catharsis, and I've been pretty hard on that record. And I think that I listened to it the other day. Not the whole record, but certain parts. There were some leads that I want to listen to, and there's some solos on there that I'm super proud of. And there's parts of that record that are really good and that I'm proud of. Obviously there's stuff that I don't like, and that's, you know, that's up to me. As far as being associated with him, I think that even back in the day, there was a point, God, it was even, you know, well before I quit, where somebody had said something like, and your own guitar player doesn't even follow you on Instagram. And it's like, you know, and I stopped following him about a year before I quit. Just because that's my choice. I don't agree with a lot of what he says or was sharing, or, And so, but that somebody had actually took the time to see if I followed him or not and brought it up. And so that's something that I can just turn off. I think that people know me enough, even while I was in the band, even there were songs that I didn't identify with playing them on stage. And, I was thinking that I was hiding it, but I wasn't. Is there anybody out there in Triple Beam and songs that I was just not feeling on stage, and I was struggling even faking it going through, and people picked up on that, and that wasn't, I'll own that wasn't the coolest thing to do. I could have always pulled what Jeff Hanneman used to do, is just fake like you're breaking a string and go behind the amp and just drink a Heineken. But now I don't think that I'm associated in any of the bad things or what is being construed as bad. I think that people have always seen me as an individual, and as far as those things are concerned, I think that being associated with records like Unto the Locust and The Blackening and Bloodstone and Ashes to some point, that being part of The Blackening and my contributions to that record were, it's like you said, it's people hail that as this huge thing. And, the dudes in Metallica were really, inspired by that record. And I had a lot to do with that record, whether it's credited or not, or, recently discredited on their website. That a lot of those songs don't happen without my contributions. And the way that I wrote back in the earlier parts and throughout my Machine Head career was I tried to come up with as much of the song as I could, because I know once I brought it in, it would get, finished or moved in a direction or whatever. So songs like Farewell to Arms, I was the catalyst for that. I brought in the intro, and Slanderous was the first song that I wrote for that record. And so that was like mostly written the first half, that songs like that. And Beautiful Morning, those songs were all brought in by me. The beginning to Now I Lay Thee Down, that was brought, and the beginning was brought by me, and then we collaborate later. But these are all songs that don't happen, whether I wrote 20% or end up getting credited for how much. They just don't. The other parts just don't come. They come from this nucleus that is formed, that is brought in, and those were my contributions in that sense.
Sure. I'll tell you, just as a fan, Phil, I remember when the press came out for that record before it was out, and probably Rob was making the comparison to Master of Puppets, and I instantly wanted to hate it, because I was like, "There's no fucking way."
It's the most brutal and the most
exactly. But my favorite record ever from Machine Head is The Blackening, but my second favorite was The More Things Change.
Oh, that's
and I was listening, and they're saying, "Well, this is not only the best Machine Head, but it's like Master of Puppets." And you don't compare yourself to the great. I don't care what band you are. Metallica should not compare anything they do to Master of Puppets.
There will never be another Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
And you can't say that this is our Master of Puppets. No,
yeah.
Because it's not.
But I remember getting it and wanting to hate it, because it was like, this can't be fucking Master of Puppets. Right. And then listening to it and going, okay, I really, really like this.
All right, it's like the Creeping Death EP.
Yeah, exactly. But and that has been one of the things, about your career, is that you may never have been the heralded guy, because obviously Rob was the front man, so to speak. But your contributions were clearly understood, I think, maybe not by the metal fans as much as the musicians, but clearly getting that call over every other guitarist in the entire world that would have taken that Slayer gig. You're the guy that got the call, and I know you probably knew those guys and that had something to do with it, but it's still playing guitar for Slayer. There's you, and there's Gary Holt, and that's it. That's still on this planet.
Right. Pat O'Brien.
And Pat O'Brien. You're right. So, that's an illustrious gig, and it really showcases that people understand what you can do and what you do with the 6 strings in your hand.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that was I've said it a lot, and that Slayer saved my musical career. I don't know if I would have had, there was a lot of self-esteem leaving that band, a lot of things said about my playing that left me just going, fuck, man, am I good enough to play at this level? And getting that call the day after I quit Machine Head, the day, not even 12 hours had gone by that I was unemployed, got the call from, fucking Slayer. And so that did, and also the BPMD guys having faith in me to be able to hold down the guitar spot for a project like that was a big deal. And it was the most freeing experience being in the studio doing those tracks, and had a lot of fun. And I think it's some of my best guitar work is on that BPMD record.
Sure.
It's just super liberating. And, there's no Floyd Rose stuff for, other than the Van Halen song, but it's just all me and my left hand, which is something that I hadn't done a lot of before. So it was a lot of blues, and finding that part in me and having everybody just say so many good things about it. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, I just got one more question before we wrap this up. I mean, it's no secret, obviously, that, and speaking of PPMD, as kids, we had such a different experience and connection with music compared to what we see today with a lot of the, younger generation of music fans, especially in rock and metal. Obviously a lot of it's attributed to, streaming and technology, but also I think a lot of it's because parents they're not doing the best job of influencing and encouraging their own kids to listen to rock and metal. Obviously hip hop's like the number one selling, musical genre now in the States. It's beating out rock for the first time. And we had talked to, your bandmate in BPMD, Mark Mengy, a couple of months ago. And he told us that the idea for that album, it came from his son when they were sort of talking about, I think they heard Leonard Skinner on the radio or something. And it just kind of, his idea for it came about. And doing those covers and giving them, I think, a metal makeover, I think it's really great for the younger generation of rock and metal fans, just so they can understand the roots of where all this stuff came from. As a parent yourself, as well as, being a successful musician, have you found it to be easier or harder to have a large influence on your kids musically? Because, like I was saying, rock and metal is no longer, quote unquote cool in younger circles. And, having a dad playing this non-cool music, they could just as easily reject it as easily as they embrace it if it doesn't align well, obviously musically with their peers in their social circles. So, I mean, do you find it as with your kids, was it easier or was it more difficult for them to kind of get into the rock music?
The 4-year-old's too young, so he's not. He's singing Thomas the Train. 2, they're 4, they're 6, they're 8. But the 14-year-old has gone through. He doesn't listen to a lot of music. He's not pretty shy kid. We got him playing drums pretty early. He was totally into that. We got him in the School of Rock, so he got into some. He got into Fall Out Boy. He's into a lot of the poppy punk type stuff, the happy, but he plays some AC/DC. He's not really a music guy, and it's music so predominant in our house. And he's typical 14-year-old. He's doom. He's, whatever the fucking names are, but he has in his middle school that he went to last year, there was a group of teachers that would get together every Friday at 7 a.m. and all these kids would come in, and they had 4 drum sets set up, and all these kids had their little practice amps, and there was like 30 of us in there. We're playing Back in Black, and we're playing Boys of Summer, and we're playing, Inner Sandman and Crazy Train. And he dug that and being part of this group of, I think what you said about doing the songs and kind of modernizing them a little bit. I think that BPMD record has done that for a lot of people, going like, giving them modern tones and a modern feel to them, and people are going, fuck, who's this mountain band, or so it's cool opening up. We sent the songs out to the guys in Mountain. We sent them out, Buck Donald from Ballistic Colt played on the song. He played on Tattooed Vampire, and he's like, holy crap, you guys have souped this up so much. And Ted Nugent gave us an endorsement. He listened to it.
Nice.
whatever your feelings are on Ted, he's still a rock icon.
Oh yeah,
Right.
sure.
And so getting the stamp of approval from Billy Gibbons and their crew is just cool that we can hand that down to the younger generation and go, look, fucking 70s were rad. Here's a little slice of what we took from it, and
Right.
go back and visit those things.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Phil, why don't you go ahead and just let the listeners know where they can, find BPMD music and anything coming out in the future for Vio-Lence.
Oh, the Vio-Lence. We're on Instagram, Vio-official something or other. I think you've got something scrolling on the bottom here. That's
the Facebook page. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. BPMD official on all the socials. Yeah, lots of good stuff coming up for next year.
Yeah.
Something super cool that I can't talk about yet.
Oh, man.
What else? Check out my YouTube page, the Phil Demmel YouTube page. I've got all these collab jams with some cool artists playing Black Sabbath and Van Halen tunes, and I just did one with Rudy Sarzo doing Revelation Mother Earth, and Mike Portnoy and Billy Sheehan, and so yeah, lots of stuff coming up.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. Thank you, dudes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, man.
I felt
all right, guys. Be well. See you soon.
You too. Take care, man.
Leave studio. Bye.
There we go. Phil
All
Demmel.
right, Phil Demmel, man. All right.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. What a titan, a guitar titan that's been around for going 30 plus years.
This is what always fucks me up with these guys. This guy is good enough to play in Machine Head, which is one of the most intense guitar bands ever, and fucking Slayer, for God's sakes. And early in the interview, he's talking about, I don't know if my guitar chops are up. I don't know if I can play these songs. And I'm like, what? You played in Slayer. You can play these songs. I promise you can play these songs.
Well, it's those bars they set for themselves, and that's what makes them so great, Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah. What a show this has been, huh?
Yeah, this has been another solid one, man. It's just so great talking to these guys. I mean, Phil, we had Mike there. We talk about the whole history of Devildrivers, Magnolia Bayou. Yeah, great show, man. Great time.
Makes it easy when they're all ready to talk and they're on time. And
well, on time. This one was especially good. I think this is the first one we had everyone. I think everybody was early.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've been trying my damnedest to get everybody to get in that green room like 3-4 minutes early so that we can, wrap up what we're doing and move forward. But yeah, no, this one went especially well. I will definitely be sending some thank yous to the publicists that all three really did us some justice tonight. But good stuff, man. I'm really, really happy as always. Aftershocks is just so much fun, man. I love doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we got a really cool interview tomorrow that me and you we're looking forward to. One of our favorite vocalists ever, Burton Bell. So, as long as he comes on, we'll be putting that out pretty soon. He's got this Ascension of the Watchers, and of course, we got our next Aftershocks Tremors live 2 weeks from today.
Yeah,
and
I don't know who we have on it, but we have Nick Perry. I know that.
Well, now we got Nick Perry, and we'll be fine. We're not worried about who we're getting on.
We'll fill in.
Yeah. But we've also got some lined up. You said in October, so you got a couple of big names lined up. So
we do. We have Ross the Boss is going to be coming on at some point here, and I'm told that LeJean Witherspoon of Seven Dust is going to be joining us at some point in here, and
Joey Vera, right, from Armored Saint.
Vera from Armored Saint is going to be joining us here right before the Wednesday before the release of the new Saint record.
Yeah,
that's October 21st. So lots of good stuff coming here on Tremors Live, man.
Absolutely, man. And and it's just it does suck for these guys, when we're talking about their new records, it's just like they release it and then that's it. No, there's no touring for it. There's no whatever. But the least they could do is this is probably much where you're going to see them, unless you see a live stream or concert or a quarantine video or a song. You can always come here.
I'm seeing more and more of these bands are starting to line up these drive-in concerts.
Yeah.
Some odd ones. I saw Guar is playing one.
Really? Wow.
Guar.
Holy. Well, I guess, because they're theatrical, so it's sort of like you can kind of maybe sit back and enjoy, stuff other than the music. But
will they run around coming on the cars?
That'd be pretty funny, man.
What are they going to do? They're going to do something crazy. They're not going to stay on stage. No.
Well, my thing is if they do that, are they going to be wearing? Oh, you could. Well, they're already wearing a mask, right? So it doesn't matter. But no, it's and it's funny because a lot of I was so against it at first, and then now I'm like, well, since it looks like it's no time soon, it's better than nothing. So it's like I think more of them opening up to doing it now. Yeah,
I think I'm staying with nothing. I'm not going to drive into.
Well, I'm not going to battle it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
I might go to see if the band is actually there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I got to try one just to see if it really blows or if it's decent. I got to do it once, but to like the Metallica thing a couple weeks ago, no fucking way.
No
way am I going to go and pay $100 to go to the drive-in to watch a movie?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what you're doing.
No, get it.
Yeah, but all right. Well, anyway,
done.
We are done. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Tremors Live. We'll see you back here again in 2 weeks.
See you, folks.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.